that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
When it comes to the ruler of the Republican Party, that being Donald John Trump.
Look, he is who he is. Would I hire him to run a company for me? No.
Dallas Mavericks owner and famed businessman Mark Cuban sees the man's tenure as problematic.
When our players in the NBA, do what's in their heart, when they do what they feel, represents who they are, and look to move this country forward when it comes to race relationships, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Because you see, he believes in athletes expressing themselves for the greater good.
People don't want to see all of the politics. They've got enough politics with me and with everybody else. And they don't want to see it with football and sports on Sunday or whenever they happen to be watching.
Trump views black lives under the umbrella of politics.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Terrible policies that harm everyday Americans, like his racist bullhorning, rub Cuban the wrong way.
What he's doing socially, immigration, the EPA, who knows what's real and what's not, rounding up immigrants that are legally here. I think his implementation and execution of stuff is severely lacking, and I don't think they're thought through.
And he's right. Trump has been disastrous for the greater good. That is, of course, if you're a selfish white guy.
How does this accept money from a foreign government to pay the bond or their fines or?
No, I don't do that. I think you'd be allowed to, possibly. I don't know.
Not necessarily a direct no answer here, which leads to another huge issue. Donald Trump and his businesses could be greatly influenced, and they are willing to strip the country for parts to benefit them and their donors.
If Donald Trump, who rips off people for thousands, gets offered by some dictator somewhere, some despot somewhere, $20 billion, do you think he's going to do what's right for the country? Or do you think he's going to take the money? Do you think he's got the fortitude to do the right thing? Do you think he cares more about you or his bank account?
Glad someone is saying it. Cuban hits the nail on the head here. Considering Trump's infatuation with money over people, this is the outcome.
I'll tell you something, though, and it's fair to lock them up. You shouldn't lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary. Lock them up.
Remember when he gave a quote recently that he never said this? A blatant lie. But that's what you get when the subject can't help him or herself.
I think the bigger overriding problem is in terms of leadership and management and personal issues for him. I don't think he's a leader.
Another checkmate from the Mavs man. Trump lacks leadership in almost every area other than himself. He is driven for his own benefit, no matter what the case may be.
People also say, can you bring the country together? And the answer is yes. Success will bring the country together because I had it together. Before the China virus came in, I had it together.
Excuses, 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 which Cuban sees through as well.
But he can't be playing the victim all the, Sean, this is what really bothers me about the president. He's the most powerful man in the world, and he always plays the victim card. The Dems are out to get me. The media is out to get me. You got to be the leader. You got to be the strongest man in the game. The man has got to be a leader, and he hasn't shown that yet.
And quite frankly, at 78 years old, he likely never will at this point.
I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me. They don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
And they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me.
An abhorrent quote that will live in infamy, which just goes to show how distasteful this man has been for decades.
In order for things to change,
then people need to take measures and understand, be very self-aware about what's going on with them and how people are living their lives.
And this is exactly what Trump cannot do. Step outside the box, look at the bigger picture, and try to do his best to uplift as many people as possible. In turn, he makes direct policy to put them down.
He has no sense of balance. He has no situational awareness, and that's what gets him into so much trouble.
Without question. And there are a plethora of examples on this.
Much fun. I love it. I love it. We having a good time? USA. USA.
Knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously.
People like me from previous months, okay? Total control. Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing. You know what that is, right?
If I were starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
Why do we want these people from, quote, all these whole countries here? Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti before suggesting the U.S. should have more people from places like Norway.
JD is kissing my ass. He wants my support.
Another fat Cuban called out some time ago.
You have to remember, the Republican J.D. Vance was very critical of President Trump during his time in the White House. He would put out tweets making remarks about some of the policies that the president had put out. It wasn't until Vance started to run for the primary that once he became endorsed by President Trump, he changed his tune quite a bit. He even went back and deleted some of those tweets that were critical of the president.
I think, frankly, that's a big problem with Trump, is that he diagnoses the problems in a very successful, very passionate way, but I don't see him as offering many solutions.
Here's what I really adore about Mark Cuban. He has taken on the likes of Elon Musk on Musk's own platform and has shown the effectiveness of diversity, equity, and inclusion, while Musk has railed against it. Surprise. Someone who comes from apartheid and probably wishes it still existed is hating on these things. He has said that he will not vote for Donald Trump. Among the billionaire class, let's call a spade, pretty rare. Do I like the sale of the Dallas Mavericks to Sheldon Adelson's wife? No. No, I do not. Do I like that he started a company, even though, let's be very clear, y'all know who I am, y'all know my politics. There should be Medicare for all. If every other developed country has it, why don't we? But I do like that he at least tried to lower prescription drug prices through his own company that he started. And there are times, I need to be very clear about this, and I don't even know why I need to say this, but just so it's not misconstrued, because I did a piece where I showed him in a glowing light. There are many times where I've disagreed with him. But it does appear, at least politically, in some aspects, that he is not, amongst the billionaire class, insane.
To a city. My father built the skyline of New York City. And this is the thanks he gets?
Look, we know Eric Trump's reputation at this point.
Traditionally, nepotism is not considered a sin based on malice like greed or violence. It's a sin of bias, of loving someone so much it clouds your judgment about their potential merit. The issue with nepotism is the way it undermines a meritocracy and now has saddled this president with really an unenviable conflict of interest should he ever have to choose between the national interest and his family.
And we know how Trump's son got to where he is in the first place.
You know, we're going to keep the moral fabric of this country, because when you watch the nonsense on TV, when you see these animals, literally taking over our cities.
From his bigotry at rallies, where he called protesters marching in the name of police accountability and anti-racism animals, when really...
You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give up. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own by our bootstraps in Tulsa and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so f your Target. F your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
He should just sit down and listen to the plight of black Americans, as Kimberly Jones did ever so passionately in the wake of the 2020 protests.
As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? When I was 22 years old, I founded the Eric Trump Foundation to benefit St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, an incredible, incredible organization. I run my foundation based on the principles my father taught me: honesty, integrity, and values. I expect other charities to be run by the same moral code, not serve as conduit for personal enrichment, not become a beacon of corruption and scandal. To whom much is given, much will be required.
Truly remarkable considering what now this put together in the following clip.
Right after college, Eric and a few friends created the Eric Trump Foundation, a public charity which raised money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Tennessee. And since its inception, all the way to 2016, the charity has raised $16.3 million. But of course, not all of it went to the sick kids suffering from cancer. According to Forbes, $1.2 million that was supposed to go to the research of dying children was instead reportedly dished out to the family business, some of it used for fundraising golf events. Donors to Trump's charity were told the money was going to child cancer research, but $500,000 was redonated to other charities, many of which were connected to the Trumps and their interests. $25,000 of it was donated to a Louisiana artist foundation who painted a portrait of Donald Trump. That painting later showed up in a 2014 Eric Trump photo shoot.
It takes a certain villainous, cartoonish-like figure to say what he does, then do the complete opposite.
It's incredible. It is nice to say Merry Christmas again, and it is a beautiful thing to celebrate all the holidays with beautiful little kids like this. I mean, this is what America's all about, and this is what the American dream's all about. And, you know, this is why we have an incredible country, because we can sit there with the Santa Claus and with beautiful trees and eat ice cream and open presents and love one another and, you know, and see little ones grow. And it's the best of this nation, and I'm proud of him for reinvigorating so much of it.
Ah, yes, of course, the conservative rallying cry of the war on Christmas. Classic.
As far as the war on Christmas goes, I feel like we should be waging a war on Christmas. I mean, I believe that Christmas, it's almost proven that Christmas has nuclear weapons, can be an imminent threat to this country, that they have operative ties with terrorists, and I believe that we should sacrifice thousands of American lives in pursuit of this war on Christmas. And hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money. I would like Bob to tell me who is the person who has been offended by someone saying Merry Christmas to them. I've never met that person. I don't celebrate Christmas, but if someone says Merry Christmas to me, and I either think, well, it's a little bit odd, it's like me saying Happy Birthday to you on my birthday, but you know, no one cares.
Well done by Sam Cedar of The Majority Report, and a clip that has aged like a fine wine.
You can have dinner with anybody dead or alive. You can't say Trump. You can't, well, you are Trump, but you can't say your father. I've already had dinner with him. Plenty of times.
Well, how about Jesus?
Jesus, that's a good answer.
That'd be a good one, right?
What would you ask him?
Oh, God. did you envision this happening to the United States of America? And did you ever envision a person as incompetent as Joe Biden running the United States of America?
He learned well from his father, didn't he?
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favorite Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible... The whole Bible is an incredible... I joke... very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time.
This nonsense is passed down from one Trump to another, all in the name of politics, and it is gross.
My father sees one color, green. That's all he cares about. He cares about the economy, right? He does not see race. He's the least racist person I've ever met in my entire life.
Come on, man.
If I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
Why do we want these people from, quote, all these whole countries here? Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti before suggesting the U.S. should have more people from places like Norway.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. Kung flu.
He referred to, who was our chief financial officer, by the way, not just an employee, the top financial officer in the organization. And he complained to me that he didn't really like having a black guy counting his money. He went on to say, what I want counting my money is short guys with yarmulkes on their head.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Because he went on to say in this conversation that that he perceived this guy as being lazy. And then he said, but that's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks.
14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, all mostly white tenants. That is until the Department of Justice took notice in 1973 and slammed Donald Trump and his father Fred Trump with a lawsuit. Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law.
Why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/tytsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.
It says here you want to allow the president to replace federal employees with who he deems loyalists that will agree to any bill he wants to pass.
Yes.
Basically want to legalize a dictatorship and take away the working class's ability to protest and fight for their rights. Giving total power to the ones who have more money and not to the ones that made them rich.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
TikToker Advice from Lewis Reloaded is giving the best breakdown of right-wing politics imaginable while saying what we all know to be true about Project 2025. What we're seeing now is just the logical end of the Republicans playing the long game and seizing and consolidating power amongst themselves and away from the people.
How are you agreeing to all of this?
Because I'm rich and none of this actually affects me, and some of it benefits me, even if it's to the detriment of the rest of the population.
So you're okay with oppressing the majority of America as long as it means more power for you and your team?
Yes, I'm definitely okay with that. My family's good.
We couldn't have said this better. Dictatorships don't come to power out of nowhere and without support from the broader population. The Republican Party platform is specifically designed to financially benefit the richest people in the country, and by co-opting populist messaging to convince impoverished and working class voters that they have their backs. The party creates a coalition that otherwise would not exist without bigotry, brainwashing, and billions of dollars invested, tying everything together.
So money has led to your abandonment of ethics, morality, and any sense of empathy for the rest of America. So you are a legal terrorist.
Yes!
Be sure to check out more of Lewis's content at the link below. He has a ton of hilarious and insightful breakdowns of American politics and news topics from a popular position all of us can relate to in one way or another. On the subject of Project 2025, we now introduce Dr. Kevin Roberts, the president of the right-wing billionaire-funded Heritage Foundation, who has been tasked with selling fascism to the American people. But first, let's get to know some of Kevin's politics to find out where he's coming from.
For the inalienable rights of every human soul transcends politics. We're not fighting merely against a policy or a party, and we're certainly not fighting against our opponents on the other side, all of whom we are called to love and pray for. Reminds us that instead we are in a fight against evil itself.
There truly is no hate quite like this, Christian love, but remember, linking religion, evil demonic forces, Satan, etc. to democratic policies is a deliberate strategy to galvanize the base against reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus inclusion, as well as economic policies like increasing corporate and billionaire tax rates. But no matter how those policies would materially benefit these voters, it all gets lost in the characterization that politics is simply a fight between forces of good and evil.
What about the economic plans of a Trump second term?
I don't think he has to lay out any specifics, Richard. I think Americans are nostalgic for Trump economics. I'm nostalgic when I go to the grocery store. I'm nostalgic when I put diesel in my pickup truck.
The only people who should be nostalgic for Trump's economic policies are the ultra-rich and large corporations. He did nothing to benefit the vast majority of his own base, but again, that's all lost in the rhetoric, propaganda, and policy strategies. People like Roberts are paid to manufacture and spread, which brings us to this horrifying revelation.
In spite of all this nonsense from the left, we are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday.
While celebrating the Supreme Court granting Trump and any future president the powers of a God King on Steve Bannon's War Room show, who himself just reported to prison on July 1st, Roberts got too excited and slipped out of his careful media training to address the extremist audience directly.
I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Right on. Thank you, brother.
For perspective, World War II ended less than 100 years ago with fascism wreaking havoc all across the world. Yet here we are once again, but this time with a publicly available plan detailing every step the right is taking and will take to eliminate whatever small crumbs of democracy we have left in this country, while the head of the foundation who authored said playbook isn't ruling out political violence and bloodshed to achieve these goals. And this isn't even the first time Roberts has hinted at such an outcome.
Let's say someone is inspired to go participate in this, but they say, Steve, Kevin, I can't, as Kevin likes to say, tithe 2 or 4 years to go to D.C., but I want to be part of what I call the Second American Revolution, hopefully bloodless or no more blood than has been spilled by the left. What we're doing here is building not just for 2025, Steve, but for the next century in the United States.
President Trump is going to make decisions about policy in his administration if he wins. Project 2025 is something that's going to transcend the next 4 years, the next 10 years. It really is, for the first time in the history of the conservative movement, the apparatus for policy and personnel. That's the most important thing to remember.
This should terrify all of us, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. A privately funded think tank like the Heritage Foundation should not have this much impact on policy and the future of our country if we had a properly functioning democracy.
Is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 election, regardless of the outcome?
Yes, if there isn't massive fraud like there was in 2020.
What does that mean?
If there isn't massive fraud. First of all, we need to close the border. And secondly, we need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America, because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. It's imperative that we send those people back, invite them back to come through the legal system. We love immigrants at Heritage, but we also love the rule of law.
No person is illegal and no one is evil just because they may have entered the country illegally. The burden of having effective immigration infrastructure in place is entirely in the hands of the federal government, and the lack of serious reforms has led the right to manufacture this panic about undocumented immigrants to stir up fear and distract voters from the real issues plaguing our country and the true intentions of their plans. Don't say we didn't warn you. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports, and or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.